Chicken biryani is the most delicious chicken and rice dish I've had in my life thus far. It's chicken marinated in tons of spices and yogurt, blanketed in a swath of basmati rice with streaks of saffron milk and fried onions over top. The only issue is, I don't make it that often. You see, for certain authentic versions, some of the ingredients can be hard to find or are expensive. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Saffron. And while not all active time, it can take about 3 to 4 hours from start to finish. So I asked myself, could I make a version with ingredients that I always have, with a simple cleanup, and in say about 30 minutes total? That's what I did. Except I also made an authentic version to see how it stacks up for our taste test at the end, to see if one is better than the other. Hey everyone, I'm Ethan, a home cooking nerd who likes to find better ways to cook and share them with all of you. So today we've got biryani, and I don't know about you, but whenever there's kind of an expensive or hard to find ingredient that I don't have for a dish and I kind of make it without it, I'm always curious how much that one ingredient actually makes a difference. So today we've kind of done that with the saffron in this dish, obviously one of the most expensive spices in the world. So I made one without saffron and also just made it quicker and easier in general. So I'll meet you back here for the taste test in just a bit, but first let's walk through what biryani exactly is. So if you take a quick look at biryani's Wikipedia page, you'll see various theories on its origins, over 25 regional variants, and the difference between pulao and biryani. For the purposes of this video, we will be using the biryani recipe from An Invitation to Indian Cooking as our blueprint. In the book, the author Madhur Jaffrey notes that biryani is perhaps one of Indian cuisine's most elaborate dishes that is usually served at weddings and important dinners. It is from the Mughal Empire, which controlled Southeast Asia during the 16th to 19th centuries, and the dish itself is made with a heavily spiced marinated chicken that is cooked then steamed with rice. So let's talk about the key changes that I made in the accessible version versus the more authentic one. First up, ingredient differences. I substituted turmeric for saffron due to how expensive it is. At an average of $5,000 per pound, saffron is easily the most expensive spice in the world due to the physical labor required to harvest it. A 1-gram bottle like this is probably going to run you at least $10 to $15. Now, saffron is typically used in biryani by steeping it in hot milk, which turns it yellow, and then it is poured over the rice to provide a beautiful color and magical aroma. Since saffron is something I don't typically carry, I decided to sprinkle in some turmeric powder in the milk for the simpler version. It will still provide a yellow color and aroma, but how good it is, we shall see. Second, I'll be skipping the black cardamom. While not super expensive, it's definitely a spice that you'll probably have to order or go to a specialty spice store to locate. The black cardamom is fried in oil, then added to the rice to unleash powerful aromas, kind of like a black peppercorn, cloves, or cinnamon. And Madhur Jaffrey notes in her book that black cardamom is optional if you have it. Lastly, I'll be using boneless chicken instead of bone-in chicken pieces. And this has to do with speeding up the cooking process, which brings me to my cooking technique changes. First, I'll be skipping the 2-hour or more marination. Since I'm not using those larger pieces of bone-in chicken, the smaller pieces of boneless chicken won't need as much time to transport those flavors. And then lastly, I'll be parboiling the rice longer so I can reduce the steaming time in the oven. You know, other than that, I'll be doing a decent amount of multitasking, but let's just hop into the recipe. To start, place a skillet over medium heat and drizzle enough olive oil to completely cover the pan, enough to shallow fry the onions. While that's heating, quickly slice 1/2 of a large onion into very thin rings, which will make it perfect for frying them. Once the pan is hot, you're going to add a couple of bay leaves and fry them for about 10 seconds, which will help release some of the aromatic compounds, then toss in the sliced onions. Gently fry the onions for about 8 to 10 minutes until they start to brown, and meanwhile the other half of the onion can be chopped into chunks and added to a food processor or a blender, along with 2 peeled cloves of garlic, a skinned 1-inch piece of ginger, 5 cloves, 10 black peppercorns, the seeds from 4 green cardamom pods, which here's what it looks like up close, it's kind of cool, a 4 spoon of ground cinnamon, a 1/2 spoon of ground coriander, a 1/2 spoonful of whole poppy seeds, a full spoon of ground cumin, and about 12 grams of salt, which is 2 3-finger pinches for me, and finally the juice from 1/2 of a lemon. Now before blending, I'm going to give those onions a quick stir just to make sure they aren't getting burnt on the stove. Then you can just pulse the mixture until it becomes paste-like. Next, add 4 ounces or 113 grams of plain yogurt to a bowl and drop in the marinade paste. Then you can chop up the chicken thigh pieces and add them to the marinade and mix together until everyone has gotten to know each other quite well. Back at the stove, the onion should be lightly brown and fried. You're going to remove half of them with a slotted spoon and set them aside, and then pour off half of the remaining flavored oil in a dish for garnishing later. This stuff slaps. Add the chicken and marinade to the oil and let it cook while stirring occasionally. Meanwhile, I have also filled up a pot or pan with water and brought it to a boil. I'm going to toss in 120 grams or about a cup of basmati rice, and with this method we're looking to par cook the rice for about 8 to 10 minutes and then finish it in the oven with the chicken. Now, while keeping an eye on the rice and chicken, you can preheat the oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit and add a tablespoon or 2 of milk to a glass and heat it in the microwave. Once heated, add the turmeric powder to the milk and stir it in, and again, this is where I would have added the saffron in the traditional recipe. Back at the stove, turn the heat off the chicken pan and set it aside and drain the rice into a colander. You're going to place the par-cooked rice over top of the chicken and spices, and lightly just spread the rice out so it remains nice and fluffy while it cooks. Then you can pour over the turmeric milk, which will give us some nice color and aroma as it cooks, drizzle over some of the reserved onion oil, and finally toss on the fried bay leaves. To cook, place a lid or aluminum foil in my case over the top of the pan, make sure it's nice and tight, and then place it in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. Now at this point, your kitchen will be kind of in shambles with dirty dishes, but you can easily clean all of them during the final cooking time in the oven. Once the timer's up, pull the biryani out of the oven and just feast upon the aromas that envelop your kitchen and add your garnishes. Madhur Jaffrey notes that fried onions are a must, but mentions other things like fried raisins and boiled eggs are typical garnishes as well. Lightly toss the chicken biryani and spoon it onto a plate, and there you have my favorite chicken and rice dish. Let's see how it stacks up against the other version. Alright everybody, it is now taste test time. So I've got the one with the saffron, the black cardamom on the right, and the one that was cooked longer, and then I've got kind of the simpler, quicker, more accessible version, I would say, here on my left. So first looks based on, appearance. Obviously this one is much more yellow just because I didn't really hold back with the turmeric, to be honest. I could have used more saffron if I wanted to get more color, or you could just put in like chili powder or turmeric into your marinade, but the recipe that I was following from the Invitation to Indian Cookbook didn't use those things, but the aromas are wildly different. Saffron has a very distinct, like, floral kind of aroma. Honestly, I don't know how to describe it super well, but it's much different. Like these, like they're so similar components, but that saffron it's like nothing else. It really is. But let's give these things a taste test. All right, got a little carried away there. Wasn't joking when I said this is my favorite chicken and rice dish ever. Texturally very addicting, flavor-wise, a lot going on. But let's break them down. So these two flavor profiles are wildly different, and really just from changing those two spices, it's kind of nuts to think about how different they really are. But saffron is so unique. It's very floral, and it's nothing like that I know of. It doesn't replicate any spice that I cook with normally or that I go out and taste normally. It definitely is a very kind of, feels like a special occasion, and it's very unique, and it's hard to describe, honestly. I don't know how to describe it well. Turmeric, on the other hand, using this in there, this feels like a flavor profile that I'm more used to in my day-to-day cooking. This one kind of feels more like that special occasion kind of thing, which is kind of how biryani is used in a lot of cases in India. And you can't really say that one's better than the other, because what if you don't like saffron? Then it's like, okay, like just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's good, but I do really enjoy the flavor and aroma that it gives off. But you can't really say that one's better than the other. Texturally, I will say I do much prefer using bone-in chicken. It falls right off the bone. It's a little bit more satisfying for me. And then the rice texture I found much lighter and fluffier using this method, where it was a lower boil time, longer steam time in the oven. We did a full hour versus longer boil time on this one, and maybe 10 to 15 minutes in the oven for steaming the rice. So for me, the textures are different. I mean, it's not like this one's bad in any means. Like, I will crush all of this biryani in the next probably 2 days, maybe less, I don't know. But it is very interesting to compare them side by side. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned a little bit something, and hopefully you try out one of these dishes. I mean, you know, with the basics, you can really add and do different spices. You could do garam masalas, chili powders, turmeric. You could throw a lot of things and spices into these, but texturally it's so addicting. Flavor-wise, it can take you wherever you want it to take you. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. A recipe for both these versions will be up on my website. I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.